your body tunes into good scalar. If you have a powerful, good scalar ether field, high consciousness field, if you believe in yourself, you know, stuff like that, you just tune out all the incoherent information. You tune out all the noise.
We have a special guest, one of our regulars, Matt. Matt is going to give us a rundown of what he knows about EMFs. This is our special call this week. He's our kind of our guest speaker, I guess, as one of our team members. We have a lot of talented talent on our team. We don't have a big team, so I think it's more appropriate to say we have a lot of talent on our team. And Matt's been active in every call anyway, but I really wanted to give him more of the reins because I feel like we haven't covered this, the way that we need to, because it's really a part of our protocols that we're testing. And so, but first, I just want to welcome anyone that's new. There is a few new names. There really is on every call. So I think maybe just one time that didn't happen. So welcome to the new people. These calls are really geared around you. And I also take the opportunity to discuss some ongoing discussions, to bring up some ongoing discussions that we kind of have over the weeks, maybe checking in with specific people who have news of how they're feeling, also a platform for new ones to ask questions. But honestly, we have so much basic information out at this point. There's really no need to bring basic questions here. But if you're brand new and you didn't know that, just know that we have a Rumble channel, we have a YouTube channel, we have an Odyssey channel, Telegram channel and group, and our website is chock full of information. So any question that you have that's across the board or basic can be answered. Sometimes we don't really have the time, to look over 10 hours of video, and we have a question right now, totally get it. So this is the place to ask it. But I would encourage just looking at our stuff that we have. I will just mention, so the Odyssey channel is referral link free. We thought it was really important to have that. Most of our videos right now are referral link free, but at one time they weren't. And so the Odyssey channel is made, set up so that you can go to the Odyssey channel and extract the video very easily, the link, and send it to somebody. So it's a way that we can help you do some marketing and just getting the word out. A lot of those videos there are short clips. I'm not sure if all of them are, but I think most of them are shorter, and some of them are even like 2 minutes long. And the other channel is YouTube. We can't post everything there. There we get a lot of traffic there. So if you want to see everything, go to Rumble. That's our Rumble channel, and Matt is putting that in the chat right now. And some of them will have a link, someone's link on the screen. Can't really take that out. Some of our folks with bigger platforms will do that, and we just take their video and put it on there. So those aren't things you probably want to share unless you're just sharing it with somebody that's already set up and you just want to get them the information. So the idea is to share the information with your link so that you get credit for anyone who sets up an account. That's how it's all set up. And so we've had this topic come up many times, but we haven't really dove deep into it. And that's the topic of EMFs. And maybe you don't even know what EMFs are, but Matt is going to explain that. So, but when we had our protocol, our pilot study, let's say, the really small one, the first one, we had an EMF. I'm not sure if it was considered a mitigation, but Matt's going to explain that too. We had a protocol program that you could purchase for a very low amount of money, actually. And a lot of people are on it. That was part of the protocol. And so it's really part of what we are believing is really going to help cleanse out, I want to say detox the body, but that too, but cleanse out of the body the things that are making it very difficult right now with all of this stuff that we are engulfed in, that is coming from the air, it's coming from the water, heavy metals, pesticides, graphene oxide, all these things that we hear about. So EMF mitigation or harmonization is two different things, is really important and part of this. So it really just hit me last week. I was like, we got to talk about this. And I'm not the one to do it. You can already hear me kind of stammering with words. And so, I knew Matt was the guy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this what is it first, Matt? We don't know what we're talking about, the difference between harmonization. And you might have had your own plan, and I asked him to be prepared, so I don't want to mess that up. But we definitely need the difference between harmonization and mitigation. What is EMFs? Some of these other, I know EMFs is kind of a broad category, so some of these other subcategories. So what are we really talking about? What are we dealing with? And then at the end, towards the end, we can start talking about ways that we can protect ourselves. So I'm going to let you take it away. I'm gonna handle the chat, or you can definitely look at it, but I'm going to try to take that away from you so you can, responsibility away from you so you can, um, concentrate. Like you'll see how hard it is when you have to do both. So
Yeah.
I'll answer the question. So please take it away.
Thanks, Nikki. Appreciate your kind introduction. So the main overriding point that really connects the topic of EMF to MasterPeace is that, according to Dr. Robert Young, according to many other experts, the biggest threat that most people face these days in terms of a chronic toxicity exposure is actually the combination between toxicity and EMF, especially nanotoxicity. Why especially nanotoxicity? That's mostly biological and not directly to do with EMF, but in that sense, it just gets into your tissues. The nano goes into your body. We've learned that anything under 100 nanometers is universally accepted into tissue and cells, no matter what it is. The body doesn't have the ability to differentiate at that point. Perhaps then it can excrete something, but there's still the easy permeability. So if we have magnetic or conductive, and it's usually both if they're either one of those, like graphene oxide is both highly magnetic and electrically conductive. If we have nanographene oxide in our bodies, then we are resonating, because the graphene oxide in our body is resonating with non-native or man-made. Non-native means not natural, so it also means man-made electromagnetic fields, which of course surround us these days and have been going on, I believe, for 200 years, in some form, something like that. Dr. Robert Young mentions this thing about all radiation or electromagnetic fields, and definition is really important here. So I gotta clarify some things, but I'll just keep going for a moment. All of it is ionizing radiation, which is more biologically active than non-ionizing. So Dr. Robert Young has brought it to our attention that the notion that, oh, it's safe because it's non-ionizing is likely untrue. One might be able to look that up and understand more of what that means, because frankly, I'm not even that square on what that means. But I think that's super important because you definitely hear that a lot of like, oh, it's fine, it's non-ionizing. All I can tell you today is that Dr. Robert Young thinks that's a load of hooey, to put words in his mouth. So, oh yes, radiation versus EMF. Radioactive particles is something different and something I know much less about. But that would be radioactive matter versus electromagnetic fields. We're not talking about radioactive matter today, although
That's fine. How you doing? Good. Good to see you, man.
there are clinical trials using natural clinoptilolite zeolite that shows the removal of various radioactive isotopes. But that's not the topic. That's radiation.
Yeah.
Okay. Something that radiates is something that moves out from point A and moves out to point B, or just out in all different directions. Electromagnetic fields do that. At least a certain type of them do that. So that's one of the ways that vocab gets tricky, because EMF does radiate. Okay. Nikki mentioned the difference between harmonization and blocking or mitigation. That's a great starting point to the difference that I really want to unpack today. But I'll say that the difference that I want to unpack today is the difference between Hertzian or transverse electromagnetic waves, which are normal. That's normal EMF, where you can measure it with an EMF meter. Yes, Nikki?
Okay, I want to clarify something. So when we're talking about EMFs, and actually radiation falls in this category, this is part of the topic that I think is really important to describe exactly what it is, because it's true, there is natural that's not hurtful, and there's unnatural. And so EMFs is electromagnetic frequency, right? And so tell us a little bit about that, the natural versus the unnatural, and what exactly is it that makes it bad? Maybe that's part of the answer.
Right. So there's natural frequency ranges that the body has been in for time immemorial that come from nature, so we can assume that. Then there's the natural or the unnatural EMF fields that man has made that are different, that are in a different spectrum. The frequency has a wave form with all frequencies that are measurable have a waveform that have a different amplitude and distance between the waves, which puts it in a different spot on the electromagnetic spectrum. Terahertz is at one end, and like microwaves is much farther down, that sort of thing. So this is the wavelength of the electromagnetic frequency. And of course, different wavelengths, you can tune into the radio and stuff like that. Like we've been able to differentiate between these wavelengths with various different types of instruments and for various different types of usage. The military and the government have like patent over the vast majority of radio, and I believe even microwave, even microwave frequencies, and then they like give them out to companies that want to use them. Like the microwave oven got permission to use a certain frequency from like the military.
Is it like patented? Do they patent these, or how can
they just like claimed ownership of it, and then they regulate it. Is okay, my understanding.
So they create it. So even though it's not something that's like tangible in the sense that it's like a equipment device, so they create it, and then they take ownership probably in the form of a patent, to be honest. So that's
the wavelength is natural, even though it doesn't occur really in nature. They were able to produce it because it's possible to be produced. And I'm sure there's some weird sources of like weird electromagnetic energy that's not good for you in nature. But basically, like, it exists, so nature allows it. So I would totally disagree that somebody could patent a frequency, if you ask me personally.
Okay.
So this whole discussion actually does serve a purpose of like, what are we talking about when it comes to and answering your question of what is EMF? It's these waves in the sky that have different wavelengths and do different things and can be used for different technologies. But we can unpack that further, Nikki. That's really not the best explanation of what it is, actually. Because we suffer from atomism on the brain. So really simply, although this sounds like I'm going off into the weeds, the two dominant theories, hypotheses, I'm not even sure which one they are, probably theories, the false one's a hypothesis, something like that, of what is going on in the universe in physics is atomism, which is that everything can be reduced to a particle, or the ether. I've never heard the word etherism, but it's basically ether versus the atom. I've literally never heard of a third explanation. Now, these are very simple core explanations of things, so a lot can be explained with each one, seemingly explained with atomism, if you ask me. So the truth of it is that everything is the ether in disguise, although that has other names. And this is super relevant when it comes to electromagnetism, because EMF is really a quality of the ether, a localized pressure in the ether. I believe some important person said like electricity is a sound wave in the ether, something like that. But my understanding is everything is the ether. But when it comes to electricity, it's really obvious. It's much more concrete what we're talking about with the ether. So the electricity isn't really separate from the whole medium of everything in the universe. So the medium idea is that we're in an electromagnetic ocean called the ether, which it's really lovely to start using that language because our body has an internal ocean called the interstitial fluid, terrain model, where the environment of disease, where the environment is more important to fixing disease than the particles within the environment or like particular supposed pathogens. If you clean up the whole ocean, the fish get healthier. If you clean up the fish tank, the fish get healthier. So we're in another ocean of electromagnetism, but it's electromagnetism in potential. The ether itself, without movement or perturbation, is more accurate, where it's like here's why you say movement as opposed to you say perturbation as opposed to movement. If it's an ocean and you have a wave in the ocean, is the ocean moving? The strict answer is no. Even though the wave is moving on the ocean, that's just ocean moving towards ocean. It's made out of ocean the whole time, so it's nothing's happening. So with the ether model of electromagnetism, the ether is electricity and all of the whole world in potential, but it hasn't moved yet. It hasn't done anything yet. So electricity and even supposed matter is a consolidation and a particular quality of the ether. So we could really swirl around that, but it's and really go into that, but that's very conceptual. I hope that me saying that is going to allow you to listen to the next thing I'm going to read with some context. I just would say before I read this thing, which is from the company called Blue Shield, which is an EMF mitigation harmonization type device, that the word scalar is associated with the ether. Why? Scalar, and I'm sure many of you have heard the word scalar. So scalar is voltage without vector. What's that? It means you have energy, but it's not moving. How is that possible? The answer is because of the ether. When we think of electricity, we think of a wave form that we can't see but could zap us, or be a radio signal, a waveform moving through the sky, where you have space, empty space, with the waveform moving through the sky, or moving through that empty space. Scalar energy, which is repeatedly producible, usable, practical concept, we can literally harness and produce scalar fields. It doesn't move through space like that. Really, it doesn't seem to care about space. Normal EMF does, let's say for now, move through empty space separate from the ether. I don't really think that's true, but it looks like that compared to scalar. So you have your normal EMF, which is waves, and they can patent all those waves, which is ridiculous because they're natural, moving through empty space. And then you have scalar waves, and they're different, but they're interrelated, and there's a connection there, and the ether is still in play with the whole shebang. But you can explain normal electricity without the ether. And physicists, sorry, And just normal people, electricians, do that all the time. You know, they don't have to talk about the ether.
True.
So why are we talking about the ether here? Well, it relates to healing. So scalar is voltage without vector. Normal EMF is voltage with vector moving through space. Voltage, energy moving through space. Without vector, how do you have energy without vector? It's like a bubble. It's like, well, really, it's because the medium of the ether is everywhere. And if you have an excited portion in a certain space of that ether, it's not actually standing out from the ether, just like the wave isn't really standing out from the ocean. It's really not different than the ocean. Our electromagnetic EMF readers don't pick up scalar energy. It can't sense it because it's not moving through space. It's like space itself has taken on a charge. And because it doesn't stand out from the background, we don't see it, which is not only a fault of our EMF meters, they can't see it because it doesn't stand out from the background of the ether, because it is the ether very much more closely than normal EMF. The scalar is like the ether itself. I just want to point out that it's very normal for humans to forget the background. If you want to hide something, you hide it in plain sight, you know. I don't know if that is funny to anybody, but you know, that's true. If you want to hide, you don't make yourself stand out, you blend in. And you know, if you close the cabinet, somebody might open it, but if the cabinet's open, then they'll just pass it by. So, you know, we think everything around us is empty space, but it's really an electromagnetic ocean. And it's hard to measure that electromagnetic ocean because it doesn't stand out from space. And normal EMF does. Hertzian EMF does. The EMF that is charging your computer right now does move through space and time in a way that your EMF meter can measure. But there is a deeper layer that is closer to the nature of the ether than normal EMF. And it is really important for healing because your body is way sensitive to the energy of the ether, and we can't measure it. Great. You know, not the best situation for measurable, repeatable science. But so far, we've gone over that there's like normal EMF that moves through space, and there's scalar that doesn't. And you can't measure scalar, but it's very potent, and the body interacts with it, and it's important for health. I guess to clarify that, regular, Hertzian, transverse, these are all meaning the same thing, meaning they move through space and are measurable on EMF meters. They do have biological impact. If some of you have noticed the talk about voltage gated calcium channels, I believe that research, from what I read, was dealing with normal Hertzian EMF and wasn't considering the scalar impact. However, you can't separate normal Hertzian EMF that you can measure from the scalar dimension. And this is what I think Blue Shield as a company have said better than anybody. And that's why I use an article from a company. I don't get kickback from the company. HCS doesn't. We're not affiliated. I just haven't seen a better explanation. So I'm going to read this real quick. From Blue Shield. Shield, which is a scalar energy company. Shielding materials do not block scalar fields. Okay. This is after they talked about Faraday cages, right? Where you get a mesh of steel or iron or silver, any metal that'll block electromagnetic waves. Literally, the holes on the Faraday cage have to be small enough. Let people in, shoot. The holes in a Faraday cage have to be small enough so that the waves don't go through it. That's the thinking there. So Faraday cages block this normal EMF that like goes through normal space. So if you cover yourself in silver cloth, you'll repel EMF, but that is the measurable Hertzian portion of it. You won't block the ether. You can't block the ether. It's everywhere. It's inside and outside of you already. And when you start to work or get, it starts doing weird space things. Okay, Nikki?
I was wondering, so if you can't measure it, how do they know that you can't block it?
Yep. Can I read their explanation, which is not an answer to your question, and then answer your question?
Yes.
So we're clear on what that question is referring to, because I do believe I have an answer, but maybe my subconscious mind needs to work on it for a second too, Nikki. So thanks for 1 second here. Shielding materials do not block scalar fields. There is one final consideration when it comes to the limitations of shielding, which is like putting a Faraday cage around you or your house or something. And it is the most important one, in our opinion. Every measurable electromagnetic field that exists has both a transverse component, what I also call Hertzian or normal, and a scalar component. The transverse component of the EMF is the part that you can measure with an EMF meter. It is the part that exists materially in 3D space and can be blocked by Faraday cages and shielding materials. However, as we have discussed at length in previous articles, which frankly, I wish I could cite some of those particular points to answer your question, Nikki, but I have my own way of saying it. So, however, as we have discussed at length in previous articles, every EMF also has a scalar component, which could be described as the essence of the field, or the pure energy and potential behind the material manifestation of moving physical electrons. That's a big statement. Scalar component, which could be described as the essence of the field or the pure energy or potential, kind of like how I was talking about the ether is like the potential, and then what the ether does is the expression of that potential. So they're saying scalar is like the essence or the pure energy or the potential behind the material manifestation of moving physical electrons. The pure energy moves through the space between atoms, so cannot be blocked by physical shielding materials. I don't know if we even know how that works there. You know, they say it moves between atoms. My understanding is that the ether is fundamental to all the atoms. So it's like it's not even moving between it. It's just already it's like because it's what it's really made out of, there's no impedance. Because the electrons or whatever we can measure is really made out of ether. If you're really working with the ether, you can just go right through walls and not get blocked by. So I don't think it's clear how that even works. Like Blue Shield thinks about it differently than I do. They say it just moves through because, let's see what they said. The scalar component, pure energy moves through the space between atoms. That's what they say. So cannot be blocked by physical shielding materials. I mean, atoms aren't really all that real anyway. I mean, I talked to Dr. Robert Young and talking about protons and how one mineral can turn into another. And I just asked, well, okay, protons are like the deal there, right? You add or subtract a proton to a mineral and you can change the mineral into another mineral. There's a lot of evidence for that. But then I asked about, well, what is a proton? Is it solid? And he said, no. Well, there you go. If it's not solid, you know, are we really talking about space between something that's not solid? No. So, like, you know, everything gets most easily explained by just reverting back to the ether. And if we get stuck on there is stuff here, we ignore a lot of phenomenon. And unfortunately, Nikki, I have to answer your question about how we know it's there by experience, unfortunately. That when we work with scalar fields, we have a profound biological impact that is measurable. So the impact of the scalar is highly measurable, and there's no measurable EMF there. But the biological impact of the scalar or the ether field is very measurable. And that's where you get all the clinical trials that are quite impressive. Blue Shield has a new clinical trial that's really much better than they did before. But what I remember is their old stuff, which is their dark field microscopy with the blood. They have a scalar field device, and it makes the blood stop clumping up. I believe that. And it's not only that scalar company that gets that result, too. So that's quite the profound visual thing there. Additionally, FLFE is a scalar or ether-based company, and their service creates a high intention, good information, prayer-filled scalar field that increases crop yield by 22% and double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled, robot, maintained tests on farm fields. Quantum Upgrade is a new scalar company, and they have like 27 clinical trials that double-blind, placebo-controlled. They got ATP to increase in the blood, and I do believe that ATP actually exists. Nikki, I
I
don't
was
know
going
if
to
you.
ask that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gilbert Ling is really critical, and he did a lot of good work on ATP. It's not what we think it is.
Right.
ATP isn't an energy molecule; it's a molecule of heat that unfolds proteins and stuff like that, and structures water. And then the water that's structured ties into the ether, and you download the energy, and it's not measurable. So really, Nikki, I think to answer your question as straight up as I can, it's not measurable, but with normal meters, but biology picks it up all over the place. And there's no normal Hertzian transverse EMF that can take responsibility for those results. So what's going on? You know? Also, we can produce scalar fields, and we know what that definition is, and what is produced fits that definition, which is a field without vector, but voltage that moves through Faraday cages. So I've seen 2 videos of radios which are picking up scalar energy fields. So the radio is inside of a Faraday cage, and it can't pick up any radio signal anywhere, but it can pick up the scalar broadcast from another device across the room. It goes right through the Faraday cage. So that's non-biological and proof of the actual scalar ether reality. You had your hand up?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. So I want to clarify and just something back relating to why most people are here with MasterPeace and what we're been looking at with the toxins and poisons that we can measure. So what we're talking about is fields of energy, for lack of a kind of macro global word, better one, or maybe that is the best one. And the reason why that we're in the company in HCS so interested in what is happening there, especially, is because it's been shown, and Dr. Young has shown this for years, others too. It's been shown that once you get certain particles in your body, those of the heavy metal nature, graphene oxide could be an example of that, those can be manipulated. And when something's in your body and it's not easily removed through normal cleansing, let's say just by doing juicing or things that we used to do years ago. So now you have something that is dangerous, because you don't ever want something to replace natural minerals, for one thing. You don't want a foreign material in your cells or in your interstitial fluid. And worse yet, you don't want that to be able to be manipulated. And so the only option, well, I guess there's two. One of two options is to remove it or to make it inert. And if you can't get it out, you make it inert, or not necessarily inert, but so that the outside force can't manipulate it. That's another option. So with the and I don't want to take you off track, but you keep going where you're going. But I wanted to kind of pause here and set the stage once again for the core. We're here. That's why MasterPeace is so effective. One of the reasons, and why it's, better yet, I would say why it's so important, is because we know that these forces are being manipulated to manipulate us. And so if we can do two things. We can remove the material and we can try to control what's coming at us. And in years to come, months maybe only, we're going to find more and better ways. We're probably going to find more things that need to be mitigated and cleansed and all that too. But right now, what we do know is that we've created a product, not me myself for sure. Matt had a big hand in that, created a product to remove the cause of what some of us are experiencing. Because without that in our bodies, correct me if I'm wrong, those outside forces that are manipulated, man-made, wouldn't have as much, and maybe none, don't know, probably none is not the right term. There's
No.
wouldn't have as much manipulation over us, right? So we need both. And so that's where FLE comes in, FLFE, Focus Life Force Energy. That's the company name that Matt is mentioning. And I recommend and highly to help us to deal with what we can't control that's coming at us all the time, which we've already defined. So you can take it from
well, I mean, I have a really negative thing to say, and I hope some of the rambling substantiated this statement, because I don't like to just throw negative things on the table without showing that I got some, something to back it up, and then also a solution. So the problem is the ether and scalar, really, if you ask me. It's much more biologically active. Now, great, right? That means all the man-made EMF doesn't affect us because it's not scalar. Well, that's not true. I believe, other groups believe, and there's a lot of anecdotal evidence. That's really what I can say. Well, no, clinical evidence, but in the biology, that all EMF fields have a scalar component. I think I can. So all the man-made EMF has a scalar or ether-based component that would go right through your silver-lined shirts, that would go right through your black painted house, or lead painted house or something, or even lead lined house. Now, to wear the silver-lined shirt helps a bit, is my direct experience, but it doesn't help nearly as much as getting the ether and the information field around you correct. So to read a little bit more about the Blue Shield statement here. The scalar component of an EMF can also be considered to be an information field. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to move on to. It's an information field containing the blueprint for whatever information the field is carrying or transmitting. Scalar fields are highly bioactive, affecting the body considerably more than the transverse, measurable, blockable portion of the field. Scalar fields can be produced intentionally or unintentionally by a product, or as a byproduct of a transverse field or a normal Hertzian, all that. Man-made EMFs from wireless devices use a transverse carrier signal to transmit information, and this scalar component of the field is unintentionally transmitted as well. Now, it depends on what you think the knowledge level of the people putting up all these towers is at the highest level, but at least it's not talked about that these towers have a scalar or ether component, carrying biologically incoherent information that our bodies pick up on and react to. When we use shielding to block external EMFs, the scalar component of the EMF will still get through and will still affect us. While all measurable or transverse fields have a scalar component, that is not the case with scalar fields. There can be pure scalar fields, which are pure informational or blueprint fields that aren't bound by the same rules of space and time that physically manifest frequencies are subject to. Why would scalar or ether fields be more biologically potent? They are closer to the fundamental nature of reality. If that sounds like a lot of esoteric hogwash, again, there's only two models in physics for what's really going on: the ether and atomism. And atomism is thoroughly debunked. So we might as well get on with the ether, which is an ocean of electromagnetic potential that connects everything. Because it's one thing. That's why it connects everything. And everything comes out of it. Again, this is fundamental physics models. That's why it's so simple. Okay. That's hopefully as passionate as I'll get tonight. Um, because it's just we're not going to be able to escape this vocab. And atomism is so yesterday. Oh my God, that everything is just a bunch of bumping particles. Are you kidding me? What about consciousness?
No kidding, yeah.
You know, they call it the hard problem of consciousness in the atomism cult. Yeah, no kidding, it's a hard problem because you have the wrong model. Okay, you know, it's not like consciousness is like I don't want to use too many negatives or whatever, but consciousness is in our experience always. We can't have experience without consciousness. And ether and consciousness have always been kind of synonymous in terms of how people use them in old writing, it seems to me. You don't really have to go there. And we don't really have to go there. But our company is called Human Consciousness Support, so I'll give a little crack at it. I mean, consciousness has the same sort of like no quality qualities as the ether. It's a medium, it's an ocean. It's not the fish in the ocean, it's the ocean, you know? It's not the stuff that you're experiencing, it's the experiencer, stuff like that. So, for instance, Focus Life Force Energy is a scalar company that uses scalar energy, which means energy without movement. Why can I claim that? Well, what is the service? The service is you give them your phone number or your address or a picture, and they put that, your phone number, your address, or your picture, inside of a high-powered scalar field, meaning energy without movement. And no matter where you are, you get the energy. There is no movement from wherever that device is. It's a secret location. There's no movement of energy from that device to you. If you surrounded yourself in a Faraday cage, FLFE would still work on your phone if your phone's inside of that Faraday cage. You know, there's no movement, so that's why it's scalar. But the company FLFE would never. There's no movement, but it travels. Very strange, right? How does that happen? You know, it's because it's tied into the fundamental stuff that reality is made of. That's why. Oh, what's another example of this? You know how like moms can know when their kid is hurt like a mile off, or you know, you just feel that something's wrong and you're right, and it's something going on across town. That's, you know, a lot of our own experience is explained by electromagnetism that is connected through information than through space and time. So as Blue Shield talks about it, scalar is information. Oh yes, how does prayer work, friends? It truly seems to work for a lot of people. In fact, I'm sure they've got the studies, you know. At least I know I'm one of those, like, you know, more esoteric types, so I'm aware of this. That like the TM people, although I don't love that group, but still respectable in how they had studies that showed that crime reduced when they had the collective meditation going on, and they did that a bunch of times, and it was quite significant. Stuff like that. This is information. This is intention. This is like human, you know? This kind of stuff that explains our own personal experience is in the realm of scalar, of ether, of information that is electromagnetic and doesn't care about space and time. So all the man-made EMF out there has this spooky component to it. In fact, there's a scalar company called Spooky. Spooky 2. It's a company. It's a scalar. So yeah, unfortunately, all the towers which have incoherent or just not natural or challenging on the biological system, and as Nikki brought it to the fundamentals, we know that those towers and the cell phone causes disruption to the blood and resonates strongly with the metal that is in our tissues unnaturally. But frankly, the scalar is also there, and it's much more biologically powerful because it's tied into the fundamental nature of the universe. Okay, so what do we do about it? Instead of blocking it, we do positive scalar fields. We pray. We use EMF mitigation from scalar companies, which frankly is like prayer. High intention, high consciousness fields, which can take your name or your phone number or your address and put it within that field, like me praying for my mother who's the whole country away from me, 3 time zones or 3 hours away from me. I feel connected to her if I pray for her because I'm holding her image, her name, or what is more universally you could call just a signifier. It takes your signifier because that covers name, address, phone number, picture. Those are all signifiers. You could say those are all names, but let's just be precise with the vocab. So all a high voltage scalar field, high consciousness field, all the same thing, needs to give someone or something or someplace that coherent high ether energy is a signifier within that field, and possibly the intention to transmit that energy to the signifier. But simply placing the signifier within the high consciousness or scalar field seems to be the action of intending it for it to go to that person. FLFE does this, right, with these signifiers. They have clinical studies. They are very slow about gathering their evidence. So everything they have on their website is really well done under their research tab. And yeah, the best one to keep in mind is that they got like 80% more leaves growing on plants and 22% increase in overall yield during a drought. And that was super blinded and placebo controlled. Number one, we're working with plants, which is not so, we hope, not so open to placebo. Nobody went and told the plants. Anyhow, just like it would be reasonable to do with a human in placebo control. And then they use these John Deere tractors that could very much measure exactly what's going on with the crop yield. And they had certain plots that had the field on and certain that didn't on the same farms. So it was very well controlled and it was very significant. Okay, actually, sorry, this is a huge point. You don't get good healing with normal EMF. If you zap somebody, they might feel kind of cool, but I am not seeing in my anecdotal personal experience that the real healing devices that are getting traction, healing services that are getting traction are like zappers using normal EMF. In fact, the most popular one, I would say right now, is like at least one of the most popular ones is the terahertz wand. Now, terahertz is in the far to the right spectrum. I believe that means a higher, more dense waveform, as opposed to more spread out, which is lower frequency. Terahertz is normal EMF. It's more biologically active, it seems, than other ones. So people have been using it for healing. But those fields, the terahertz, according to Dr. Robert Young and others, are interacting negatively with highly magnetic toxins that are in our body. So there's a really wonderful safety component with scalar fields. They're not forcing the issue. They're working with the fundamental fabric, that's fabric ocean ether of reality. And they're not hitting you with anything. It's not zapping you. It's like somebody praying for you. And frankly, I think I've made some enemies in my life. I mean, I'm young, but some ill intention has come my way, and that's normal. I can handle it. That ill intention, scalar consciousness field, absolutely would matter. Black magic seems to be real. Bad intention can hurt people, just as good intention can help. That's all. That's all I'm saying. So, we're sort of used to that. We know that it's like part of the terrain of life and this, how we're all interconnected and all that. But I just think scalar, even if you can transmit bad intention, is fundamentally safer than normal EMF therapies, and they're certainly getting better results. I mean, show me a normal zapping machine that is not scalar that gets better results than some of my scalar tech that I like to talk about. I mean, anybody can do that. I don't know if it's easy to do that here. Anyway.
I just want to go over some of the questions I'd like you to answer, but piggybacking off of that, to me, coming from the field that I'm have been in, how I would correlate that is that scalar is like giving the body the raw material, or just is a raw material, and then the body knows what to do with it. So when we're giving our body like the raw materials of, let's say, nutrition, minerals, salts, things like that, your body then knows what to do with it, instead of going farther up the food chain. Let's start back here. So that's how I'm hearing you say this. It's kind of how I'm thinking of it, and it's really kind of fascinating.
Oh yeah, it is farther up the food chain. It's like the fundamental fabric of reality, as opposed to the stuff that fabric does for fun. Like,
well, that'd be the beginning
yeah.
of the food chain. So scalar would be like at the beginning of the chain, and then the going
exactly
less usable, right?
Yes.
So somebody's asking about the results from FLFE. I can tell you that I don't notice any results, but I know that there's studies that show it, but I'm not sensitive that way. I don't know why. I can remote view. I'm very good in other ways, but I can't feel this EMF stuff, or this lack of, or the scalar like others can. So but you can, Matt, you want to answer that? What are the results?
Yeah. Well, I'll go into, because I think I brought up enough of the sort of clinical stuff, so I won't just like go down people's throat. So what do I experience? Because I claim to feel it, and some other people claim to feel it. So what's the general consensus, and what do I experience? And they're actually really good at gathering that. What do people generally say? They hear from people who doubted that it would work at all, people that thought it would work, and so they really categorized all that in terms of people's anecdotal experience. And it really is harmonization of the energy around me. Everything feels smoother. Everything feels easier and lighter. I'm quicker in various aspects of my life. I mean, it's really quite similar to what MasterPeace does. It just gives me peace. It calms everything down. When I take it off, I worry more. And something that was reported a lot, not just by me, but I find it is the most noticeable thing for me with FLFE, is that I can get out of negative states faster. So if we can remember that scalar is an ether is an information loaded electromagnetic field that works like magic. Our bodies are super sensitive to. Our body has to comb through, process, digest something like this, the information in all the scalar fields that are not only around us, but are non-locally entangled to us, like our mother is probably one of the more entangled things to us, at least while they're alive, I would say. Certainly some spiritual traditions believe this and say there's no higher yoga for oneself than service to one's parents, because there's just this connection that has nothing to do with space, So we have to work with all kinds of scalar information fields. And to just go down the list, I wanted to include that. Like your parents, your friends, your loved ones, your lovers, the scalar fields coming from the 5G towers, just your own, crappy thoughts. You see how it has a charge, but it has a quality that is like information. This one's worry, this one's guilt. Those are the worst. Guilt is the worst on the map on the map of consciousness by David Hawkins. This one is hope. This one is peace. This one is confusion. But they all have a charge. So it's charged with information in this dimension. So in terms of our mental life, and even our physical life, our emotional life, energy information is quite an accessible notion. Am I speaking to? Am I having too much fun with myself and how I'm talking about it? An accessible notion, like you experience it all the time, charged with a quality that is like some kind of information packet, and you have to digest it. So FLFE makes it all more digestible, makes it all flow through me faster. I have a negative thought, it comes and it goes, and I get what I need from it more faster. Basically, it speeds up the process that I was already going to go through with all my feelings and thoughts. FLFE does. If I turn it off, I want to just kind of like do less because I need more time to process. It's like my computer is running slower. And I do turn it off sometimes. I feel it every time I hit the booster. Is that placebo controlled? Not at all. So they have a booster thing. You can turn it up and down, and so you feel that. Okay, that's me. What about you? You can feel better sleep, just like MasterPeace. I think especially because man, I really don't know why both MasterPeace and the scalar fields really help with sleep. I'd like to be able to take a stab at it because it's so universal. Maybe sleep is where you process information and that whole thing is going better. And, deep sleep is that real connected state, and everything's more efficient when you're in deep sleep versus dreaming. It's my experience. And maybe the scalar field is bringing you into and better connection with the ether by taking MasterPeace. Less susceptibility to bringing those non-native EMFs into your body because of MasterPeace, which is very provable, or at least very conceptually clear. But I think it's both. Because those non-native, those cell phone signals have an ether component that is just as incoherent as their measurable EMF. And incoherent, what does that mean? Harmonization, what does that mean? You have to appeal to the word information to explain what that means, Nikki. I don't know of another way to explain what harmonization means other than information that makes sense to the receiver or not. It's incoherent. You could say vibration, but information just makes it much more universal. Incoherent stuff that the body has to take longer to get through. Like if you eat gummy bears versus a green juice, the body knows what's going on with the green juice and has no idea what's going on with the gummy. Well, actually, gelatin's pretty darn healthy for you. Let's see what Pringles. It just takes longer for the body to digest it. Man, it's so the same thing with scalar. It's not even funny. And incoherent versus coherent, harmonized versus unharmonized. So because FLFE is at the fundamental level of reality, all the EMF coming in is harmonized, including the actual EMF and as opposed to just the scalar. Because the transverse Hertzian measurable through space-time EMF is a byproduct of the ether. It comes out of the ether. It's gross level ether. Like thoughts are more refined or closer to spirit than matter, it seems. It's kind of the same difference. Like scalar is a thought and EMF is a body or matter. Measurable EMF, it's 3D. You can almost touch it because it's measurable on an EMF reader. But it's all coming out of the ether. So if you got good ether, it harmonizes everything. And again, it's very biologically apparent. The plants love it, provably. This other company's increasing ATP, double-blind placebo control over hundreds or thousands of miles away without a direct energy weapon. You know what I mean? It's not beaming anything at anybody. It's really profoundly biologically active. That's the proof.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about, what we're dealing with is different words that we've used throughout the years and decades.
Sure.
Maybe Akashic records, even our portion of what we're talking about, if those exist. I know it exists. I just don't know if the particular term that people are using there would be what is really what's real. 'Cause
Library and information are tied together. You know, you'll just find when you get into this stuff, you find the word information to be the most useful.
yeah, or data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Actually, I'm sorry. Let me just say why I have a proclivity to the word information. Information means, it's information. It's information. Sorry. So you can have coherent information or like incoherent, like basically non-information. So in that word, it shows the importance of coherence and harmonization just in that very word. You want something that is well structured, something like that. And guess what? A structured water body that's free of poisons, so the water can stay nice and what we call structured, which is highly negative charge and it is very materially known what that means. It works better with the ether. Here's the statement to really bring that home, I would say, is that all of the scalar companies or the people that work with the ether stuff, if they really know what they're doing, they'll agree and say that the biggest thing that makes their technology not work is that humanity is full of poison. You know, we are a antenna. Our whole body is an antenna to the ether. And if the antenna is not bent and it's made of the right materials, then it picks up a better signal in this non-measurable realm, but measurable in the biology. So
Makes sense. Question on the chat. Can you define again signifiers, and also would the scalar accentuate the process of MasterPeace?
Defining a signifier. It is very interchangeable with the word name. You know how people get really intense about what name they call God? I think this is part of the reason why. People really connect with life with these different names. How does that work? Okay, well, it's somewhat explained by the explanation of this whole signifier thing, I think. And that's really deep, and I love that. And I think it's a good thing, not just something to fight about. A signifier is a label.
Yeah, so when you're talking about FLFE and how they use signifiers, so in the context of what FLFE is using that as a conduit for, where their energy is going is kind of, I think, just maybe overviewing that.
Totally. I can't help but get preachy about this stuff, Nikki. I'm a 7 stellium Sagittarius, and that has to do with EMF because when you're born, the planets are in a particular arrangement in the sky, and that has a particular scalar ether electromagnetic quality to it that imprints you when you're born, is my belief. And that helps make us unique. It's not something to blame because you are everything, so you can't blame it. It's not happening to you. You are it. You are the whole process. So you can't blame it. So I've overcome that issue with astrology, so don't worry about that. I take responsibility for myself. So with the signifier, like the address. Oh, I mean the preachy thing is because I'm such a Sagittarius. Anyway, and I try not to. So thank you guys. Especially because we have to prove everything. We really do. I completely agree. I'm all about the evidence. Okay. FLFE takes your address and then they put it inside of the high consciousness field, and it's like your address, your house is inside of that high consciousness field. Because it is actually. It's not in the place where it's generated, but it's like a voodoo doll. You dress up the voodoo doll like a person, and then you stick it with a pin, right? That's what I saw in movies, I guess, from Hollyweird. You just make it look enough like a unique signifier. There it is, right? You need a unique signifier. And again, a signifier is just a name, like an address or a phone number for your phone. Like your phone number is the only phone number in the world that is like it's unique to that phone. That's how they made the system. Same with the address. So the intelligence, and you can't get away from this, I swear, the intelligence of a high consciousness field can know that it's that one, that it's that phone, that it's that address, that it's that water bottle that you took a picture of, and not another water bottle, although that's harder to do. But you can do stuff like that. Another water bottle that looks the same. Like, I've got a necklace. There's other necklaces like it. I take a picture of it, I put it on FLFE, and I feel it.
So
I'm so glad there's clinical studies here, because otherwise you just very easy to dismiss the whole thing,
Also with the MasterPeace bottle, so that is a signifier. So the label is a signifier.
Yes.
We have the labels, what they call coded. So that is a signifier that we had to send in, and they send the field to all the labels, which gets infused, you'd think, or at least surrounds the MasterPeace liquid. So that's the answer I would say to the question of so would the scalar accentuate the process of MasterPeace?
Yes, and the FLFE people have specifically worked on that. So it's not that they just took the label or signifier of MasterPeace and just threw it in the field, which is what my explanation is. It is deeper when it comes to doing it well. You'll probably get something, but it's not going to work too well unless you make the intention, information, the very quality of how the field is generated. There's a lot that goes into FLFE, and all of that matters, including they get it so the signifier on the MasterPeace bottle is going to protect the liquid inside of the bottle until it's put into the or harmonize or do a couple different things to improve the formula. I believe if you take it out of the bottle, it'll hold that, like to dose yourself. It'll hold that energy. It'll still be with it for a little while, but it'll go away after a little bit. And it's not just a field that surrounds the bottle. Like if I put a field on my phone for FLFE, that field will be like at a certain diameter or radius away from my phone the whole time. It's like, I think it's like, a couple dozen feet actually. Around my phone will be a bubble of the FLFE scalar field that is harmonizing all the EMF, because it's so deep in reality there.
Right. 9 feet out.
But just to get to the MasterPeace, particularly Nikki, it's that it's going after the liquid. It's not like a big field around the bottle. They're able to do that, which is cool. And that's how I feel about the bottle too. Although they say, and I feel it, that you can hold the bottle and feel it. And there was one point where they had a stronger field on the bottle, and I could really feel that. And then they took it off, and I could feel that. And then they put on a more reasonable field, and I can feel that. And it corresponds to everything they say. I've been training myself to feel it, and because I take a lot of nano zeolite, I think I'm more susceptible to feeling it, frankly. So I think you guys can get excited about tuning into this stuff way more on your MasterPeace journey. It's very exciting because this isn't something to be afraid of. This is like a great ocean of interconnectedness and truth. And that is kind of what we're all going for in some way, shape, or form, I would say. Yes, Nikki.
A really good question from Margarita. So when we coded the label, is it only going to be coded on the bottle, or is it anywhere the MasterPeace label is going to be that shows up on your computer, if it's on a logo on a shirt?
So FLFE is a very responsible company, and they have thought of everything. So no.
The answer is no. Yeah, I know.
It will only work on the bottle. That's right. That's right. There's a lot of cheaps, because when you're a person like me and you feel it, and you're just like a convert sometimes. And so there's people who have, gotten really passionate and made their own services that don't work nearly as well as some of these larger, more financed, more thoughtful and well-produced products. There's good and bad scalar out there. And FLFE goes into a lot of detail with how they do it. So you can't really, do that, for example, exactly.
Okay, thank you. So we're run out of time here. We had definitely had some questions in the chat. Nobody's really raised their hand or anything, but is there anybody that wanted to raise their hand and say something or ask a question?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the chat, but I saw one thing about, this is how like the evil people do something or something. I don't know if that was on there, but like, yeah, like, we need to get informed about this because I think there's people with bad intent that know about this. Absolutely.
Oh, of course they do. They knew about it way before, us, slaves uh, did, us of the lower class, so to speak.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't care if I sound crazy. I know that I'm saying something really like kind of vital right now. And
Mhm.
so it's like you want to get protected from all the EMF, you go to this level of scalar. Yeah. That's probably the other message. I guess I'll try to save the best for last. Your body tunes into good scalar. If you have a powerful, good scalar ether field, high consciousness field, if you believe in yourself, stuff like that, you just tune out all the incoherent information. You tune out all the noise. You tune out the incoherent scalar and the transverse waves probably from the EMF. And if you want to wear silver lined underwear, so you make sure you get pregnant, it's fine. Or you get your partner pregnant, that's perfectly good. It's just not going to cover you for the scalar dimension. That's what's so interesting. And I would say save your money and don't get so sweaty. Those are usually very thick, those clothing.
I love that comment about the aura and how it's a body part. I totally get that. The
Ah,
energy body is a thing. We often say the body, mind, and spirit, and it's the energetic field or the energy field that is actually maybe the fourth component there that gets neglected because it's kind of a new understanding with most of us. But I love that.
I'm having a ball. Thank you so much for asking me these questions and letting me go on. And I feel like we do have like an understanding going here. And I see some good questions in the thing. And I just noticed I didn't really answer one of the questions that you brought up. Could it accentuate the process of MasterPeace? So I would go back. I don't think I really touched on that enough. Is that a good thing to go over once more?
Yeah, you certainly can. I was saying I think it does because it's right on that's when we talked about the label. So
Ah,
you can go deeper into that.
well, yeah. So all the really good scalar people will have to admit that like being full of poison makes their service, scalar service, not work as much. And scalar service can be non-local. Like FLFE is like far away and it just gets in contact with you with your phone number and such. Or you can have a device on your person that produces a scalar field. Just like, FLFE does have a device somewhere. Um, so all of those companies, I think the good ones would admit, and Matthew has talked to a lot of them and has brought this up, and this is what he says to me at least, would admit, and actually I've heard it from FLFE that being full of toxic junk is making FLFE not work as good. So it goes both ways. That there's a relationship between our body and these information fields that are core to what's really going on, and they're electromagnetic at their core. Our body is super connected to that, and it's connected to that because our body is an antenna for it. That's kind of a material explanation for a realm of physics that is really non-material. But look, we're talking about our bodies after all. So what is the link between our bodies and the field? I mean, I love that question. What is the link between our bodies and the field? Maybe we could say, well, it's not. It's our spirit that's connected to the field and our bodies aren't connected. I just disagree with that. I think it's all connected. I think it's all one. So, what is the material bridge between the body and the field? I think it's water and minerals. Water is a strange molecule with a particular geometry. I am not an expert in this, but that geometry is thought to have antenna-like functions. After all, water is more flexible in its state than other elements. It can turn into a gel or a liquid or a solid or a gas. So it has this gel component that's really impressive and highly negatively charged and good for life. So, and that gel is a crystal. Gel meaning it's not liquid, it's more solid, and it's water, and it's a crystal. It's really close to a crystal. And then the minerals, which are dissolved in it, are crystals in a more normal sense. They're minerals, they're tiny little crystals. And those are dissolved in the water. And it's just that crystal rubbers know it, that they're connected to the field. So we are a crystal. We are a walking crystal, and crystals connect to fields. In fact, you can make a radio which is picking up normal Hertzian transverse waves with quartz, I believe. I think it's quartz. There's old quartz radios. And there's probably a lot more to that than somebody in this room knows. So yeah, just like go to your crystal shop. All the crystal shop stores are like generally a little like kind of dirty because you got to clear those crystals. But a good crystal shop will know that you got to have quartz. You have to have quartz. If you got a ring of different crystals, you want quartz involved because that'll clear the other ones. And you know what? The scalar feels like FLFE is quite like having a quartz crystal on you because it clears and harmonizes all the other energy. It makes all the energy more coherent. They did a gas discharge visualization thing. Yeah, I knew I got too much in my head at one point to explain this, but what about harmonizing the transverse waves? What about harmonizing the stuff that moves through space-time? Are we just harmonizing the ether and that just kind of somehow affects everything else? Well, yes, that is true. However, do we have evidence that the actual normal EMF that we see and as a wave is getting more coherent? There's something that Dr. Joe Dispenza uses called the gas visualization discharge machine. It is subject to skepticism, but I think Dr. Joe Dispenza has a pretty good reputation and stands, is an evidenced person. And this machine is claiming to show, or FLFE is claiming, and I believe them, to show on their readings that that machine showed a harmonization of the transverse waves, not of just like the incoherent scalar. It's one of those you can measure the EMF sort of things. You can measure normal waves, but how do you measure the coherence or incoherence? Meaning like I guess how in formation it is, right? Versus just kind of all over the place. I don't really know. The gas discharge visualization machine apparently knows. And if you get a certain reading, the EMF is more coherent or less coherent. And FLFE made it more coherent. Also, FLFE like screwed up random number generators. It made it less random, like stuff like that. It made random number generators more predictable, which is like completely controlled, like incredible. I love that.
I have to go. I literally have like one more minute. So I don't know if you want to continue and I leave or if we just should, because we don't want the, I'll have to edit all this anyway. So if it's really something that's applicable, maybe we can go on, but if not, I don't know what everyone wants to do.
Yeah. I'm all jacked up on MasterPeace and scalar energy, so tell me what y'all need.
What is that? Does everyone have, do you want them to keep going, or anyone that wants to leave, please, feel free. Don't feel like you have to stay, but maybe this can just be kind of a, maybe we can just end the call in the formal part and then we can have an informal chat. You can stay with Matt if you have more questions and he wants to, keep imparting some knowledge, that's fine. So we have half and half. So thank you for coming, those that did attend for this special call. And we're going to have more of these once a month. We'll have special guests. So I want to thank, I'll just take this time right now to thank you, Matt, for doing this. I really appreciate it. And it helped a lot. And we'll put this out in a form that everyone can rewatch. So it's going to be helping a lot more people afterwards too. So I appreciate it.
I have a lot of gratitude for how you introduced me today. It's very kind and over generous, and your editing of this stuff. I know you have a huge interest in this stuff, and you're a really thorough person. And you can see today, this is my best. And it's hard to really even know where to start or how to talk about it, especially because there's a lot of different vocab that people use. And I think people in the chat are bringing up a bunch of different things that relate. Exactly, everything relates. Everything relates. It really should be a roundtable discussion of people's experiences with spooky energy. It really should be that. So anyway, thank you for moderating and editing this.
Thank you so much. I'm going to head out. We're welcome to stay. And I'll just get myself out of the room. Thank you so much again. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Sister. I'm gonna stay a little longer because there's at least one thing I want to say, but definitely want to open the room up for people raising hands or just popping in to say hi. But let me just go through the chat real quick. I mean, of course, the first observation here is what I kind of just said of how people have examples of what I'm talking about, things they've experienced, really powerful examples like a son going into a scalar room and then no longer needing glasses. See, this is and again, there's clinical evidence that this stuff is very biologically active, but you can't measure it. So this is a huge scandal because it's not going to be able to go out mainstream because you can't measure it with normal EMF devices and you can only measure it in the body. First of all, it's like they're going to be able to say that you just can't measure it, so you're full of it. Second of all, they hardly ever really look at, good biomarkers that really show health. If we did that, then the million tests that happen in the medical system would result in better outcomes. So not only do we have to use good biological tests, which is either rare or hard or both, to measure this stuff, because it's vastly more easy to see this stuff when you actually see its impact on life, as opposed to, you just can't measure it with like a tri-field meter, stuff like that. So this is like a really big thing. If you know what's going on with this, you can get ahead of the game a big way, because this stuff is just not going to be talked about. It's for the reasons I just explained. At least not for until we transition more, raise the consciousness, all that, which this group is doing, and MasterPeace is going to help do. And MasterPeace is an explainable, easily explainable, hugely powerful portion of this. Like I said, I feel very similar benefit from high consciousness scalar fields and MasterPeace, with or without FLFE on the bottle, because it's improving the antenna that is my body, which is made of structured water. The antenna, at least, I'm sure, would be made of the more crystalline parts of the body. So it's tuning into the ether better, or able to work with the energy better, and the information. So, talk about MasterPeace, right? Then if you know about it and you see the evidence and you want to give it a go, try the more spooky energy stuff. But probably just tell your friends about MasterPeace until you're a real believer and you're ready to hear, forget it, I don't want to hear about it. What the heck are you talking about? Anyway, I'll stop ranting. This is new to me, says Aline. Have you heard the Neuro 4 with the alpha or gamma light therapy that you place on your head? Is this like being zapped? Well, yeah, there's a lot of devices that are zapping you, and that's a crude phrase. But it's not scalar. That's what I mean. It's Hertzian EMF transverse that moves through space. So maybe there's good version, but while we're full of magnetic poison, it's very likely that most of those activate the graphene, frankly, unfortunately. On the other hand, good scalar does the opposite of all the pathological symptomologies associated with activating the graphene. I just said a lot, but the symptomologies of activated graphene are blood clots, stuff like that. Really, the one of the more easy things to see is the blood clumping up. And then a lot of different scalar devices show that the blood is stopping clumping up. So that means the scalar energy can give the cells and the red blood cells their zeta potential back, which the nanopoisons disrupt. Zeta potential is the negative charge. MasterPeace has got a fantastic zeta potential. It's called an ORP measurement. And it's very much like the proper zeta potential of a healthy body. Helps it make it work, it makes it work better, and it really charges up your own body in a physical way. But you notice the stuff that works is subtle. What is MasterPeace? It's drops of very small stuff. It's not much material to the naked eye, is my point. Therefore subtle, and it really goes everywhere and in a potent way. And the whole notion of nanocolloidal solutions being a superior, or at least highly untapped, huge potential realm in medicine. Dr. Robert Young wrote a book about that. He's been working on that for 40 plus years. Colloidal solutions. And then if he, he points out that the interstitial fluid of our body is a colloidal interstitial or colloidal connective tissue of the shod, he sometimes say. Colloidal connective tissue, it's the connective tissue like the ocean. Like the ether is one big ocean that connects us all. The interstitium in our body is an ocean that surrounds all of our fluids, that things move quite quickly through, that MasterPeace goes into and spreads everywhere through the interstitium. It is the more liquid portion of our body that surrounds all the more gel-like tissue. And that fluid is a colloidal fluid. It has a bunch of small particulates in it. That's what a colloidal solution is. Very small, and so numerous dissolved solutes. And small, subtle, these are similar things to me. Scalar is subtle. Colloidal solutions are just mere drops. These are the real biological powerhouses, I think, at our fingertips. Like, you just get miracle healings with some of the scalar stuff. You really do. On the other hand, I think you got to be, responsible with the scalar stuff, and you can kind of detox a little too hard with it if you turn up the intensity of the field a little too much. So FLFE is the most responsible, careful, well-intentioned company out there, I believe, and I truly look at them all. And I actually use another one, but it's more high-powered and could put people into a detox crisis, is more confusing on the back end. The customer service at FLFE is unreal. You can go on and call them and just talk to them for hours. They've got an office full of people to take your calls. So if your head is spinning after this call, I totally encourage you to pick up the phone to FLFE tomorrow, and they will just talk to you and listen, of course, and explain it their way, which is they're never going to say the word scalar. They always say high consciousness, interestingly enough. But really, scalar just means energy without movement, which is what's going on there. Oh yeah, that link, I didn't really label it right, but it was kind of recent in the chat. That was the FLFE link. Consciousness is informing the ether, perhaps, to produce scalar. I mean, I really don't know. I just know that consciousness and the ether are very similar in how they're described. They're both mediums, or what everything is appearing in, I mean, they're probably the same thing, really. But the word consciousness, right, is probably not encompassing the whole of what we're talking about when we use the word consciousness. When I use the word consciousness, I mean that which knows, that which is aware. So awareness itself, if you use both of those words together, would be synonymous. I believe that there are levels of awareness. Unfortunately, I have a disagreement with some other people on what the levels thing means when it comes to this. If consciousness is just the awareness itself, that which knows my experience, or experience, whether it's mine or not, then it doesn't have levels. There's no higher or lower in that. It's just the knowing. And frankly, I think that's a really important thing to know on a personal level and a spiritual level, because that's the constant. The awareness of experience seems to be one of the most constant things, if not the most constant thing in life. I think even when you're asleep, when you're in deep sleep and you're not even dreaming, I would say that you are still there as awareness. Just there's no time and space, kind of like scalar. There's no time and space, or it doesn't care about time and space. In deep sleep, there's nothing to remember. There's no objects. It just goes like that, but you're still there. Like I kind of feel like, yeah, I was there in deep sleep. Sure. Well, what's that? It's probably consciousness. So I use the word consciousness like that, to where it has no levels, but there's levels of awareness. Like, am I really aware of how much of a blabbermouth I am? That can go up and it can go down. It's in the relative world. Consciousness observes that. It's not polar. It's not good, bad. It's not yes, no. It's not right, left. It's just aware. So, human consciousness support is raising human consciousness. FLFE is a high consciousness field that's raising consciousness. Fine. Great. It's just when we're going to talk about scalar and consciousness and all that, I think it's a good time to bring that, what I just said, up, because there is a rock that you can build your awareness of these levels on. And I think that's the constant of awareness itself, or consciousness itself. The awareness has levels, consciousness doesn't, something like that. What can we trust? The consciousness. And I think that really gets into the theological realm, and I really don't have a hard set opinions, and I'm certainly not trying to convert. I'm not saying God doesn't exist and all there is consciousness. I would never say something like that. I use the word God all the time. Questions I want to address in the chat real quick. So the terahertz thing, I'm pretty sure it was Dr. Robert Young who observed or has the evidence that while we're still graphinated and got this junk inside of us, the terahertz, which is not scalar, and this question says, well, they say that it's like scalar and other stuff as well. Yeah, I think actually the terahertz in the wand hit a crystal, and then that produces a scalar field. Yeah, I think very much so. I had one of them at once. So the terahertz itself is still like zapping somebody, and so it's I really think this is a faithful relaying of information. Basically, any kind of zapping EMF has the potential to activate highly magnetic and electrically conductive material in our body that's not meant to be there. Make it grow is what this graphene seems to do, or at least self-assemble and all that. Graphene is really, I believe, truly proven to actually exist. So that's nice, because there's a lot of fear out of there that's unfounded. But this extremely positively charged, highly magnetic, highly electrically conductive material, in all three of those categories, make it a very distinct substance. And I believe that's part of the reason why it's easy to test for reliably, although very few places will actually test for it.
The question is, does MasterPeace cause bone loss? And I'm asking that because I had emailed you a while back and said that my nails had been such a mess. I started it. I started it in February, and you said that you have that's a common complaint with MasterPeace, because I think you said that the MasterPeace pulls, the zeolite pulls out the heavy metals that are comprising your nail makeup. Am I right? It's pulling out the heavy metals, so it's making the nails appear terrible shape.
That's it. So what I can tell you for certain is that it's a common heavy metal detox symptom to get brittle nails with ridges in them. I don't think it's happening to people rapidly. I think because I take a lot and I'm pretty young and I'm into health, it's just happening really fast for me. Now it's actually not a hindrance or an issue for me. It's literally like ridges in my nails, and then when they start to get long, they might chip.
Yes.
So in order for them to not like chip badly, you want to just make sure to keep cutting them. Otherwise, you might get an ingrown nail if they chip bad.
So it's not removing the good things, the good minerals. So you don't need to take a mineral replacement for it. That's not what's happening. Right?
Correct. And I have evidence for that in the published literature. There's actually zero evidence, although it's talked about by some zeolite companies, I think, to sell their formula, which has the mineral replacement you need because of a scary thing.
Yeah.
There's actually zero evidence that natural clinoptilolite zeolite steals anything needed from the body. Human trial, which is also, no, it was a trial. It wasn't a meta study performed or in the National Institute of Health. I mean, it just means it's a well done study, I guess, in that world. We're trying to reference published literature, you see. So anyway, it's the NIH archive study about natural clinoptilolite zeolite in humans, massive dose. Well, I mean, dosing powdered zeolite continuously for months, athletes, and there was no loss of needed nutrition. Same with animals all over the place. A lot more evidence for that in the animals. Cows that have postpartum paresis, which is a calcium deficiency issue after giving birth, which makes sense. The zeolite actually helped to reverse that. Zeolite isn't donating calcium. So what's going on there? Two explanations, but one observation first. You would think it would do the opposite. You think a mineral deficient cow taking zeolite, well, maybe that zeolite is going to bind to the minerals and take out the needed minerals. The opposite occurred. How could the opposite occur? Well, natural clinoptilite zeolite is a donator of the bioavailable form of silica that is found in all living beings. It's not the desiccant silicon dioxide packets that say do not eat on them. That's a different kind of silica that can absorb water and does have toxicity studies. Orthosilicic acid, orthosilicic silica. Orthosilicic means correct silica. Ortho means correct, and silicic is silica. So correct silica is orthosilicic acid. It's correct because it's the biological one, you know? So natural clinoptilite zeolite donates that, published literature on that, experience, evidence of that. You'll notice that skin gets better with MasterPeace and Master Restore and powder zeolite, but I think MasterPeace is some of the more potent aspect of all of this. You know, it's just the power of colloidal solutions. Even for this type of stuff, like hair growth. I mean, you know, hair growth and you know, my beard, I couldn't grow a full beard, man. I had like acne problems that like stopped that. Now I can. More or less in my definition, I guess. And you know, you see those, so this connective tissue about the bones, right? The orthosilicic acid on its own, separate from zeolite, has studies showing it massively increases bone density in rats. Silica is like a structural kind of thing. It adds to the hair, to the skin. Also, I think the nail thing with zeolite, although it is true that if you do other heavy metal detoxes, you might get ridges, or just detoxing in general, you might get ridges in your nails, in your fingers and your nails. I believe you will see that quicker on zeolite because the silica is making your nails grow faster at the same time. And yes, to be very clear, the hair will increase its quotient of poison. The nails will have more poison in them. The hair will have more poison in them because it's leaving the body. The poison is measurably coming out everywhere. Your lymph, your skin. If you do the right detox baths, you'll just get all this crud coming through your skin. The poison is measurable in the hair. The poison is screwing up, making the nails not right. With the ridges and the brittleness. It's measurable in the urine, even. Fundamentally, people don't have issues detoxing all this stuff with natural clinoptilite zeolite compared to literally everything else. And the logical conclusion there, even though we can still measure the poison coming out, is that it's bound to the highly negatively charged zeolite. You got that really positive charged poison, generally they are, and it's just stuck. And it's neutralized the charge. And the charge itself is a large part of the mechanism of the poison. So in terms of poison's hurting you, if you neutralize the positive charge, makes the poison far more neutral. But you could still measure it coming out of all these different places. I mean, I like urine therapy is starting to catch on, and I couldn't be happier. I think it's a real thing. But yes, you get measurable poison removal in the urine, and I believe you'd still be fine. I've been kind of doing that for 4 years along with nanozeolite, and I'm not dead, which is incredible.
Did you the MasterPeace? I asked you if it causes bone loss. So if it's pulling the heavy metals out of the nails, would it be? It's probably pulling the lead out of the bones because lead settles in the bones. And what happens when it pulls lead out is the spaces that are available replaced by bone. And I'm asking because I have something called an NTX urine done every 2 months to follow bone loss in between the DEXA scan every 2 years. See, with DEXA scan, you've got to wait 2 years after you make your change to see if it helped. But with this, with the NTX urine, it's very reasonable and it's very easy to do. It's just a spot urine test. it will tell you how your bone loss is doing. So say your doctor makes some changes with your protocols or the things that you're doing, and 2 months later you have your test, and it'll show whether you're still losing or if you have stopped or you're slowing down, and then you'll know what to do. Reverse it, change it, increase it, just keep going. And boy, my bone loss has really increased in the last 2 months.
Orthosilicic acid increases bone density. That's in published literature. If your doctor ever avails himself of PubMed, he will find that. Orthosilicic acid, bones, on PubMed online. So big database, main database of published literature. Natural clinoptilolite is 60 to 70% orthosilicic acid, hydrated form of silica. Hydrated how? Isn't it formed in a volcano? Well, it's the lava spewing out of a volcano hitting the ocean at an incredible temperature differential, and it forms this most amazing substance, zeolite. And part of it is this bioavailable or almost organic. I mean, it's not attached to a carbon, which is usually the definition of organic chemistry, but it's the form of silica you find in living beings. So, I mean, I think we can say it. It's the organic form of silica, and silica is a structural, it's associated with structural parts of our body, collagen production in the skin, hair growth, nail growth. See, growth, stability, collagen, connective, and then there is the studies that show that increases bone density, at least in rats. You do need a mineral replacement, but it's not because the zeolite is gonna steal minerals. Frankly, we're not sure. Minerals are crazy important for homeostasis and health. When you rip out poisons, the body likes to have minerals there. That makes sense. But it's not because it's stealing good minerals that you need the minerals, truly, because there's no evidence for it, and there's evidence against it. And actually, I'm just going to go and, okay, no, I'm going to have to ask you all to do the work. On our website, on the research page, there's a PDF you can download. Towards the bottom of that PDF is a list of studies underneath a heading called like no evidence that natural clinoptilolite zeolite causes mineral gapping. And there's like 6 articles or papers there, I mean, not articles, that prove this. The Parcher and Paresis thing with the cow, the NIH study with the runners, and about 4 or 5 others. And then just the meta analysis of the natural clinoptilolite zeolite literature, which looks at all the studies on it. It shows that no study has ever proven that it removes anything beneficial from the body. So we need a mineral replacement, because if we just took a ton of nanozeolite without the marine plasma, we would feel bad. We would get headaches. We would be very thirsty. We would want to take much less. And the marine plasma made it so easy on the body. That's what we know for sure. There's like a hypothesis floating around, and maybe it's causing enzyme gapping because the body was making enzymes with bad bad poisons that were mimicking minerals, and the body makes enzymes with minerals. But like, there's Zen cleanse people who take a lot of exogenous, highly bioavailable enzymes, and they can still like get that clinoptilolite headache. So it's probably not that, but I don't have a better hypothesis. It's just that your body is doing good work, or is ready. Probably it's ready for more minerals, after you take the poison out, something like that. I would really bring up the orthosilicic acid thing to the doctor. You see, it's a little harder to describe the evidence of how clinoptilolite is not stealing your good minerals and robbing your bones. Now, of course, the really hardcore question that needs to be asked is, what is that urine test really testing for? And are we sure that, the MasterPeace is not throwing the reading somehow? Right. Does it test for how much lead is coming out? And how it knows how much bone you have? I have no idea.
I don't know.
Okay. Zeolite itself is a aluminosilicate, which a lot of people get freaked out by. It's a matrix of aluminum and silica that is unbreakable. It is forged in a volcano that then crashes into the ocean. And if you were to soak it in crazy acid, it won't break. The silica, however, will come off.
Okay.
But the aluminum will stay bound to the silica, and that forms the zeolite cage structure.
Okay.
That's what the zeolite cage structure is. So that's evidence and proof to the otherwise well-known fact that silica and aluminum are very close friends. They bond up very easily. And so taking silica is known, especially bioavailable, organic, that whole thing, the orthosilicic acid form, plant-derived, something like that. But zeolite-derived works as well because it's that orthosilicic form. It's proven to remove aluminum. People start excreting a lot of aluminum when they do that. And
Okay.
frankly, I think it's probably binding very tightly, even just to silica, because the relationship is so strong enough to form zeolite in certain contexts.
Let's see. Hydrolyzed. So when you're talking about orthosilica, you got to watch your kinds of silica that you use, because not all silica is created equal, and anything that the body uses is hydrolyzed. So you look at orthosilica and you'll see the H there in front of it.
Yes.
And I'm not going to do a chemistry lesson, and because I'm sure you guys are aware, but it has to be hydrolyzed. So Charlotte, the reason why your nails are doing what it does is because your body doesn't get the calcium that it needs, and you're not giving it the silica it needs in a bioavailable form that's hydrolyzed. So your body takes up lead and cadmium and all manner of quote unquote bad minerals, because actually lead that's hydrolyzed and even arsenic that's hydrolyzed is essential to the human. But when it's not hydrolyzed, it's poisonous. So what you're doing is, with the MasterPeace, is you are removing the lead, and cesium-137 is in most of you, most all of us, due to all the intelligent radioactive testing that we've done and uses that we've done, generating power and so forth. But anyway, there's cesium in the environment. Your body picks that up and uses it instead of calcium, because your body needs calcium, and most people are horribly calcium deficient. And green leafy vegetables and raw milk with sulfur is where you get that calcium from. But the idea being is that the reason why your nails and hair are doing those things is because the calcium, or excuse me, the lead and other things that mimic the calcium are being removed, and you're not putting it back in again. And there's probably not enough in the MasterPeace. That's just me conjecturing to replace it. So you might want to figure out how to get more calcium into your system so that you don't have that gap. And the same thing with enzymes. Your body will use incorrect minerals to make enzymes because there's nothing else. Your body is an amazing, amazing thing. So it doesn't have this. It would rather have this, but it's not available. So it uses what it has, which is often lead, mercury, cadmium, cesium, name all the aluminum and all these other ones that the body uses to replace it. So it's not going to, technically, it's not reducing your bone density, because it's not taking calcium out of your system, but it is taking lead that was in place of the calcium. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The MasterPeace should give the silica, which should help mineral balance of all kinds. And then we got the other mineral replacement. But yeah, if the body was using, that's the enzyme gapping theory. But it also goes for bone. Okay, yeah, dig it.
Right.
Thanks.
So and that's basic chemistry. And see, that was the other thing that turned me on with MasterPeace and a few of the other people that are associated, is that it's not just charge, it's also geometry, right? Because we don't study that, but it's charge and geometry, and then it has to be hydrolyzed. If it's not hydrolyzed, it's not a quote unquote organic nutrient.
How do you know if it's hydrolyzed?
It'll have an H connected to it.
H.
Yeah, I
which
said
is the hydrogen.
hydrated form. Yeah, isn't that the same thing?
No. If you're what I'm talking about though, it's like take a look at. You'll have to actually look, and it's certainly not going to be on the label. But you'll actually have to look at the chemical structure of the whatever it is you're talking about. Like if you take a look at the just Google will show you that.
Yeah, it's like a three-dimensional swastika.
Right. But it'll also show you that that silica is just S, and then if you look at the orthosilica, there's a hydrogen attached to it, and that's what your body does. No, hydrogen. Most abundant thing in the universe is hydrogen by far and away. Most of this is hydrogen. And we're starting to figure out we need it. And then the other thing that you were talking about is being structured, and the idea that see, I don't want to talk about it, but there was a time what I'm about to say could get people killed because it was one of the secrets of the Masons, and that was drinking urine. Because drinking your urine, once you figure that out, and this is how you know that our benefactor is a trickster, because only a trickster would make it so that you drink your own pee, and that's what you need. But the idea being is that if you drink that, you'll find I'm 60. Most people don't peg me at 60. And the way I started doing the reversal was with urine therapy and super hydrolyzed, super structured liquid. And see, that gets out, and your pharmaceutical companies, again, if you understand the story of pharma and who pharmakia was, and the whole Asclepius and the poison well and the poison arrows and Napoleon and so forth, they believe this stuff. But if you understand that drinking the water of life, which is, they've hid that very well, but it's the waters of life, you would never need pharmaceuticals ever again. And I mean, in quite a few cultures around the world, up until quite recently, they're all aware of the benefits of drinking your own urine.
May I ask how much you drink? Do you drink it all day or just in the morning or after a night's sleep? Because I've been drinking mine for 2 years.
Excellent. Do you drink fresh or improved?
Morning, just morning.
Okay.
And that's probably not right. Go ahead.
I don't drink it. It's better than nothing because you're drinking structured water, but you look into improved. Just figure out improved, because what are you doing? You're drinking stem cells.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what it boils down to. You see, don't drinking pee, that sounds terrible. But if you're drinking structured water, or well, what do you say that I'm culturing my own stem cells using nanostructured water, that sounds a little better. But the idea is that use the age, because it's an exponential function over time. 9 days is the bare minimum, where you're going to start seeing huge amounts of stem cells.
9 days old?
At least.
Good
Most of the stuff I drink is longer than that. I know. See.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But
yeah, quite
you'll
strong.
yeah,
but
no,
true about
and
the stem cells, proven in the
yeah,
literature.
absolutely proven. And see, and then here's the other thing: Chinese medicine and Indian medicine. When you did Chinese medicine, a lot of the herbs and mushrooms and mineral and other things that you took, you ate or drank the tea, and then you peed it out, and then you drank that, and that was the medicine.
Yes.
Not the thing that started. Right? But I'm telling you, this was one of this is why many of our Masonic brothers live to be old and look good while they're old, is because they drink their own urine. They don't touch pharmaceuticals. They don't touch pharmaceuticals that are poison, and they're all poison, which is why you need a license and a prescription, because they're giving you small doses of poison, because their belief system is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So they give you a little bit of poison, and then not to mention that when they give you a little bit of poison, they make the money on the back end, right? Because
so you're saying that it's okay to drink urine that's got heavy metals in it that the MasterPeace pulled out, because you're getting the MasterPeace back in again to go a second time?
what you're doing, once
that.
again, let's go back to the beginning where it was, your body will naturally hydrolyze it. You can't get it out of your system if it hasn't been hydrolyzed. Right? And if you do, you're going to call those kidney stones, and that's going to be severe pain. But if it's in liquid aqueous form, it is hydrolyzed. So when you drink it, your body is going to recognize, and you may actually pull more out with it. And then the other thing I've done, just for fun, is taken some of the zeolite and put it in the urine that I've cultured, so that if there is any negatives in the urine, the zeolite should pull it out before I drink it, and you'll see that it will settle to the bottom, right? So you're not drinking the zeolite powder.
The sediment.
right?
Nice. I
But
love
think
that.
about it.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah,
it make
yeah.
sense? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just an
so
experiment. It
when
is
it
not
ages
tasty.
9 days,
Mhm.
that's what you drink. You drink
Minimum
the
9
whole.
days. Most of the stuff
Sorry.
I have is a whole lot older than 9 days.
Okay, we'll start with 9 days. That's just,
Yeah,
I can't
start
even
with 9
imagine
days.
that.
There you go. No, because okay, I used to smoke, drink, not come home at all. And I don't do that anymore. But there was a time when that was my lifestyle. Okay, so if you can drink shots of tequila and whiskey and bourbons
Oh my
and so
God,
forth,
right?
right? Okay, but you can't drink a shot of urine, really. Okay, I mean, that's fine. But my friends are starting to notice my when my beard comes out, it's not gray. I don't use hair color, and I'm 60, right?
Yeah.
And that's 100% due to
How long?
drinking
How
urine.
long have you been drinking it?
A long time.
Well, 10 years, 20 years?
No, not that long, but more than 5. Let's put it
More
that way.
than 5.
Yeah. And like I
Well,
said,
you
it was the
look really-
hardest damn thing because it would have been 20 years, but there were so many times when I just looked at that and I couldn't do it, just couldn't do it because of the programming, right? And then
I'm
one
sure.
day it hit me, I'm flushing, like literally flushing. And who taught us to flush it, by the way? And who told you that a golden liquid should be something that would be flushed? But you're looking at after you've aged it for a couple of weeks, you're looking at 20, 30, 40, $50,000 worth of stem cells if you were to go
Yeah.
the traditional route.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
mean, just that based alone.
That's
I
right.
had the benefit where the mother of the mother of the mother of my children, my boy's grandmother, was a midwife. And see, at the time I was not able to hear her speaking because I was so programmed. But she had 1,001 uses for urine, especially with baby urine, like putting it in their eyes to keep infection in their ears, and
Yes.
jaundice, and on and on and on, like all
Yes.
these different things. And she had been a world traveler because Tina Garzero, if you pick up a book on midwifery, most of them are dedicated to her. She never wrote a book herself, but many of the midwives, that was their mentor. But she had traveled the world, India, well, she hadn't been to China, but Indonesia and all these different places where this was part of traditional medicine. And guys, these people are like cancerous and they're drinking, I mean, there's pus and blood in their urine and they make them drink
Yes.
all of it. Right?
Yes.
And they're curing them of cancer. In India, they don't treat diabetes, they cure it. They don't, I mean, there's no treatment. There's no big industry about pricking your finger in insulin. They just cure it. And how do they cure it? Urine. Right?
We have a question
right?
about
The
urine and
Americans.
ammonia.
Yeah, see, and that was the thing. That's what stopped me. A demon tricked me in the early 20s because, see, when you eat meat, one of the byproducts of digestion of meat is ammonia. So certainly you wouldn't want to drink urine if you're a meat eater. Okay, lie. Absolutely you would, because that ammonia, again, is hydrolyzed and it's not harmful to you. And in fact, it'll clean crap out of your system.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the mechanisms that really makes you eliminate every last bit of blockage in your bowels. If you take evolved over time
diverticulitis and all those things. And yeah,
you know, the ammonia will kick that out of there. But you know, I noticed that it smells like ammonia for a while, and then it doesn't.
Put it in
You
the
know,
sun with a
it gets,
paper towel or something
yeah.
over it, and then you will evaporate off that ammonia. But
yes,
again,
so if you do that, that's better.
yeah. But yeah, but I can't between the MasterPeace and the urine, years have rolled off of me in 3 months.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah,
So
there's
cool.
so that's why when I get into on Facebook and stuff, and I see these guys talking about, I put MasterPeace on dried blood and it turned into a transformer and ate my dog. No, just no, none of that happened. And the idea that somehow the MasterPeace could be detrimental, no, because I'm direct benefit. Same thing when I start hearing guys talking about urine therapy that have never tried urine therapy. First off, why are you talking? And second off, I have personal experience that and seen have seen personally the benefits. Like I've had times when I catch my urine and I'd show it to you, but I'm not gonna. But if at the bottom of the bottle, there's like these little crystals, these little red crystals. Okay, those are not hydrolyzed, and those are minerals that want out, and my body's sending them out. And fortunately, they're not so large that they cause pain. But I definitely notice when I pass them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're solid. You can see them. Whereas if it's hydrolyzed, like you said, it's got the hydrogen, it's water basically is attached to whatever molecule we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That part of the
Mm-hmm.
molecule is water. And see, that's the other thing. I just put that in there. Study water. Joseph Pollock and the 4-stage water and so forth. But I mean, if you study water, we're 70% water or more, depending on what part of the body we're talking about. The water is truly an amazing thing. There's a whole lot more to it than H2O. And
I think we're 99% water by number of molecules.
There you
If
go.
you actually measure, yeah. So I mean, because water is a really light molecule. So if you go by weight, which is that 70% figure, you get the 70%. But if you go by number of molecules, we're 99% water.
If you look at the history of it, Rockefeller Medicine, they did everything they could to take out anybody that knew about plants, anybody that knew about any kind of quote unquote natural cures. And of course, that was one of them. And it was one of their secrets. Right.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, like I said.
Well, I
So-
mean, if you could speak on anything about the scalar and the ether and the energy stuff, you seem to have a lot of
scalar.
insight.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So Maui scalar room. Any of you guys ever go to Maui? I'm in Phoenix at the moment, but if you ever do go to Maui, the Maui scalar room, those guys are great. And they're really, really reasonable price at the moment. But the scalar energy, that's a college thesis. But the idea that scalar energy, my youngest son spent 24 hours in there, and it's a joke among us because okay, so he wears glasses, and he's worn glasses since he was a child, and there's big issues about this because I tried to give him pinhole glasses, and his school wouldn't let him wear the pinhole glasses, and blah, blah. Anyway, all this stuff
Wow.
about his
I gave
thing.
Emily pinhole glasses.
Yeah. But no, pinhole. Long story short, I had a booth next to the lady that invented the pinhole glasses, and I got to talk to her for like 3 days in a row. And there was a very interesting woman. And there's another one where they tried to do everything they could to counsel her and shut her up. They didn't kill her, but they destroyed her business over and over again and derided her. And none of the eye doctors are interested in knowing about pinhole glasses. But anyway, my son decided to just go with it because none of the rest of us wear glasses. But so he was like kind of designing he's a teenager now. So he was kind of designing his look around wearing glasses. And then he went to so like all his money on clothes and stuff like that. And then he went to the scalar room, and now he doesn't need glasses anymore. So he doesn't need to.
Incredible.
Anyway, but it's the scalar room is the real deal. That stuff's amazing. And I've heard of people from Maui, their various experiences. Like you said, some of those stories are miraculous, absolutely miraculous. Like cancers disappearing, people that thought they were going to have surgery for their knees or shoulders or whatever joints, not that long in the scalar room, and suddenly they're canceling their surgeries. It's gone, or whatever the issue is disappears. So yeah, the scalar rooms are the real deal. And there is, you want to spend some time with physics and so forth, and because there's something we know very little about.
Well, if I can say something to compare that to FLFE. So
no, it is. They're using scalar energy. That's what they're doing.
Yeah,
that's what
totally.
that technology is. Here's the other thing with the MasterPeace. You have the potential to remove calcification, right? So the muscles aren't rigid and stiff and hard as much. So because again, the calcium, when it's not hydrolyzed, is not beneficial to the body and actually can cause issues. Because this
Now,
is
what
the
do you
thing.
think of
This is the
baking
most
soda,
another thing that's just too simple and effective.
well, is it hydrolyzed? I guess would be.
Well, no,
question,
that's what you
because-
got to do when you take when you're taking baking soda. You make sure you're taking quite a bit of fluid with it, right? You must have a lot of liquid with baking soda. But I mean, baking soda when
and
it
then
comes to racehorses and so forth has been proven. They don't let you give baking soda to racehorses because it's not. They consider it cheating. There's
Yeah.
a clue. And then same thing
Yeah.
when you're in weightlifting and so on. Is
Yes.
that the if you take a lot of baking soda, but it also is great. A lot of Hawaiian kahunas I know talk about taking 1 teaspoon, half a teaspoon in the morning, half a teaspoon at night to dissolve and keep your pH level. They're not talking from a pH point of view, but what they're talking about is dissolving toxins and so forth using baking soda. And
Yeah,
This-
so you have like this easy on the body form, but you still need the water.
right,
Because
water,
because it
water,
seems
water.
Well, you know, the ratio of potassium to sodium bicarbonate in Dr. Young's force salt is basically 4 parts potassium bicarbonate to 3 parts sodium bicarbonate. So that's what I'm taking along with force salts as a combination.
Here we
But,
go with more chemistry is potassium and salt. What the potassium does is it pushes the sodium out of the cells and replaces it with the potassium, which is more slippery and happy. It makes your cells happier. And again, water, water, water. You got to have water to make all this work. H2O.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
I
no, and I
asked
really
earlier,
appreciate you
so-
guys. You guys are actually like, this is a company that's recognizes that we're in a fight. This is an actual fight, and any aid I can render you, willing to give. Whether it's just small amounts, letting people know, going into the chat rooms and dealing with some of these ridiculous trolls, and so on. I'm 100% behind you guys. We need
Well,
more
we
companies
feel it.
like this, not because there's so many
Mhm.
more things that we could be doing. And if this is the thing, most people are not coming from the higher consciousness. They're coming from greed factor and trying to line their pockets and make the best out of a horrible situation and profit from it. And that's exactly not what this company is about.
Okay,
Okay.
big love,
All
everyone.
right. Good
Big
night.
love,
Night.
yeah.
Good
Night.
night, guys.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.